The higher your viewpoint, the greater the purview. That's all about where you at and what you can observe. Basically, it's all about comprehension. Comprehension is cognition. Cognition depends on your location, your placement. Just as in life, our cognition changes, our comprehension changes from time to time. From the time we're born till we physically die, our cognition is in constant flux. And that's only because of where we are at. So that means if we can control our cognition, we control our comprehension. Which means what? When we comprehend something, in return, it will influence us. So, the quotation from Abdu'l-Baha, the reality of man is his thoughts. The reality of man is his thought. With S or without S, doesn't matter. That is so fundamental. We are, as beings, we comprehend, understand based on our cognition. Our cognition is based on where we looking down from. So the higher the viewpoint, the greater the purview. Purview, purview. The more we can take in as in responsibility and also comprehension. That's so fundamental. I think that human cognition is on ascending the spiral. Education is the growth engine of this movement. By neglecting education, what kind of education? Education that can take you from one round to a higher one. That means your point of view, your viewpoint changes. You ascend, you transcend the previous one. So your purview becomes greater. That kind of education. The education that deprived you of that engine, of that power, is acting in a destructive manner in opposing to constructive education. The only education that, based on the writings of this latest revelation, has to be comprehensive. It has to be based on cognition, not based on belief, not based on traditions, not based on anything but actual live cognition. That comprehension that is born out of that cognition has to be comprehensive. It has to be inclusive and not exclusive. Exclusivity brings in limitations and conditionings which we need to what? Leave behind if we want to be comprehensive. We need to be inclusive in order to understand. This is why that ascending a spiral is the true picture of education. First of all, it includes all the departments of life. Nothing is neglected. It's based on cognition, which is the highest, noblest human attribute in this life. This is why Abdu'l Baha says the reality of man is his thought. He elevates that cognition, that conceptualization, which you can only see in human societies. No other creatures on this planet manifest this capacity to conceptualize. This conceptualization is the noblest attribute because it is not dominated and it's not subjected to physical laws which are paralyzing, and they dictate their subjects. They dictate to their subjects. Conceptualization is free from most of these dominating, dictatorial, physical laws. That is why concepts ascend. Physical, material, matter in itself does not. It resists ascension. It resists transcendental movement. It's always gravitating towards the basest, the lowest, the most fundamental level. The reality of man is his thought. Education is the engine of growth. But the actual growth, the essence of growth, manifests itself in this world mostly through conceptualization, cognition. The source of that cognition, it can't be matter, because matter stays matter. Matter can never give you anything else except matter itself. Energy and matter are two phases of the same thing. One is transformed into the other, and vice versa. Separate, transcending the matter, we step into realms that are not subjected to the physical laws which the matter is subjected to, essentially, intrinsically, existentially. So this transcendent movement cannot be from the matter. Matter resists ascension. Matter resists. How do you say that? Matter resists freedom from the physical limitations. I think that's very obvious. So here we don't know anything about the source of this transcendental movement, but we can definitely see and sense the manifestations of this force. And these manifestations cannot come from the material source. You cannot bring out a product from the source when the attributes found in the product are not to be found in the source of the product. It's impossible. The source is the whole. The product of that source is the part of that source, that greater system. The part is only limited what the source contains. That is extremely important, very fundamental. And we can read that quotation again. You see how we are changing our viewpoint, hence changing our purview. The reality of man is his thought. The reality of man is his thought. It seems like Abdu'l-Baha is saying that our reality is a product of our thought. The reality of man is his thought. So these thoughts, cognitions, conceptualization is a source of our reality. Our reality is a product of this conceptualization. So if I can conceptualize, change, transcend what I am now cognitively, then my reality will not stay the same. My reality will change. This makes so much sense. When we comprehend, truly comprehend something that we did not before, what does it do after the comprehension? Our reality, our being changes. We behave in a different way. speak in a different way, relate to the different way, in a different way. And that change become a stepping stone for the next movement to a higher spiral of that transcending movement. So, the higher your viewpoint, the greater the purview. And this is also related to that viewpoint. If my viewpoint is not high enough, my purview is not great enough. That itself is a limitation and a conditioning that deprives me of comprehending to a greater extent. So when I limit myself to matter, for example, not that anything changes in the environment because of my viewpoint. No, nothing changes. The only thing that changes is my reality, and my reality is based on the reality of man is his thought. So my thoughts is based on the viewpoint that I have, and my comprehension is based on the greater the size of the purview. The greater the purview, the more extensive is the comprehension. So concepts, conceptualization, thoughts, viewpoint gives us greater or lesser purview. So the environment, the greater reality does not change. Notice that. The greater reality, universal reality, does not change. I am changing. I am ascending, and I'm changing. The greater the ascent, the higher the viewpoint, the greater the purview. Matter is in the business of resisting ascension, resisting change. Matter resists change, resists transcendental movements. To transcend, we have to shed away, shed the matter. Matter is attachment. Attachment will anchor you down. Nothing can ascend if it's anchored down to the ground. That is extremely important. I think it's so clear that in order to take on the higher ground, which is the viewpoint, we need to detach from matter as much as we can possibly do. That itself will lighten us so we can ascend to higher spirals. Higher spirals will give you greater purview, which is a different comprehension, more extensive comprehension. And that is the reality of man, is his thought. That's when our reality changes. This is unbelievable. It's so fundamental, and it's all hidden. Not any longer as far as these things we just talked about. In the reality of man is his thought. So our comprehension of this quotation is that very reality of ours at this very moment. In our existence. And our existence is in constant flux, never stays the same. This is why Abdu'l-Baha, again, he says that there is no stagnation, there's no stillness. Everything is in motion. But you either, at least in this world, in the physical realm, you either move forward or you move backward. Nothing stays still. Everything is in motion. So, is there anything as a staying as we were? No. If we are not moving ahead, forward, expanding our comprehension, we are moving backward. We are regressing. We are lessening our comprehension. Our comprehension is either expanding or contracting. There is no such a thing as constant. In fact, Abdu'l-Baha himself says again, the only constant is change. Change, which is constant flux, is the fundamental universal reality in everything. Now, the greater universal reality, as the reality with a capital R, is always there, is always here. Everything contained in the reality, which is everything, the whole of creation, is in constant change. Isn't that interesting? This reminds me of that circle in yin and yang in the Taoist emblem, in the emblem of Taoism. The circle is constant, it contains the two opposite movements which are in constant motion. The greater the reality, that's not that greater, the great reality, the comprehensive reality, the whole, WHOLE, is what is. Everything that's contained within that is, that reality, is in constant flux, in constant change. Which all comes back to the change of those realities, my reality, your reality, which all of these will return to the reality of man is his thought. That's enough.